welcome to the show. My name is T, and we are talking scary movies. I appreciate you tuning in for another brand new episode. Remember, every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, I'm going to have a new interview, opinion piece, or some horror news for you to check out. But throughout the week, I am dropping countless reviews in the world of horror, whether it's movies, TV shows, books, games, whatever. I don't want you to miss any of that, and so to stay up to date on everything, get subscribed to my Linktree. And you can do that by going to linktr.ee/T-Scary-Movie. If you get subscribed to my Linktree, that's going to give you access to the YouTube page for the video versions of the show, your favorite podcasting platforms, the audio-only versions of the show, to my Letterboxd page for my written reviews and movie rankings throughout the year, to my TikTok page for my short horror content, including movie premieres and movie news, to my Twitch page where you can catch all my horror gaming, and to my Fangoria shop page where you can enjoy my 20% off discount anything in the Fangoria shop, including a yearly subscription to the physical Fangoria magazine. So subscribe, folks, so you don't miss anything at all. We got so much great stuff coming. And in the month of September, not only are we revealing our winner for Who Gets the A for Alien Little Golden Book, but I am going to try to do my damnedest every single week, updating you with the movies I'm watching and where they're going to be available at, because that's the one thing we're all looking for as the spooky season comes around, is where can we find our favorite horror films. Y'all, my annual Scary Movie Festival starts off this Sunday, September 1st. We basically do it Sunday through Thursday every single week that I have the availability to do it in my Discord channel, and so we're going to keep up with that here on the show. So I'm going to let you know where you can catch all of these films at on streaming services. So I'll do my best. You tune in weekly here in the month of September and October. I'll have good suggestions for you and where to track everything down. So what does that mean we're talking about here tonight? There's a film coming to Netflix on October 30th titled Time Cut. Now, I have not seen a trailer for this yet here, but all the releases are going out right now talking about how this is another time travel horror film about a young woman who, after her sister is murdered, uses the time machine to go back to the early 2000s to save her sister's life. Now, if that sounds familiar, that sounds very reminiscent of the plot of last year's Totally Killer, another time travel movie about a young woman who finds her mother murdered and goes back in time to try to prevent this murder from happening, along with some other ones. Now, I've talked about it, and I said in my review that while I did enjoy Totally Killer, it didn't exactly hit every single avenue that I was really hoping that it was. Time travel movies, I feel, are all over the place. There's so many of those out there, and of course, we all agree that the standard, the gold standard for time travel movies is going to be Back to the Future. And plenty of other time travel movies have done an excellent job with their story, with their characters, with the entire film as a whole. But the thing is that when we start trying to turn that over into horror, I feel that it's a much tougher subject to really approach. Mainly because one thing that got brought up today here talking about this movie Time Cut is the idea here that we're so fascinated by the idea of the year that they're going back to, the year that they're now going to be living in. You know, a friend of mine who had commented on that had actually said, and let me read off here, that the problem with time travel movies is that they focus on the nostalgia, and that usurps the story almost every time. And that's really, really true. My man Stabby McDanger, who posted that there in response to a tweet I had put out there. But I agree with that, because so many of these movies really focus on, oh, they're going back to the 70s, so let's focus on that 70s aesthetic. They're going back to the 80s, let's focus on the 80s aesthetic. They're going to the 90s, and so on. Now, in some cases, I truly do understand that, and I don't have an issue with that. But I think my problem is that in horror, what we've seen of that so far doesn't really explore those concepts too much, that when it happens, if it's not being done in a way that still keeps the horror really present and really first and foremost the importance of the film, I'm kind of tuning it out at that point. And that was one of my big issues with Totally Killer, is that the aesthetic was really based on showing, oh, this was the life in the 80s and in the early 90s there. And it's well, I have Back to the Future really to help me out with a lot of that, honestly. How is this better than that? And I know Back to the Future is up here. It is the holy grail of movies. The franchise as a whole is up there. But that doesn't mean you can't do something similar to that works really well. And so I figured tonight I wanted to talk just a little bit about time travel in horror films. It's not going to be that long here, but I am so curious. And I want y'all to let me know here in the comment section what your favorite time travel horror movie is for a chance to win A is for Alien, The Little Golden Book. Because there's not as many as you would actually think that there are that are based around time travel and horror movies being put together. And not only that, when you go back and look at a lot of those films, most of those aren't really about going back a significant amount of time and changing something in the past. The best ones have really adapted the idea of it's something incredibly recent. If you're looking at Time Crimes, if you're looking at Happy Death Day, if you're looking at The Triangle, movies like that do a really, really good job of focusing on just that small period of time that these characters are in, because the whole idea is that everything that's kind of been fucked up, everything that's gone wrong, could likely be rectified in a small period of time. Now, there are others that do explore like the concept of what was happening in that era. For example, The Final Girls, an amazing slasher that has time travel in that, to where our lead character ends up going into the movie that her mother filmed, decades prior. And so she's actually living in the environment of the film. But the difference for that one is it also still wasn't really based on the time that movie was shot. It was still more so about the fact that you're in a movie, and that's what the characters are all really pointing out, is that you're all following tropes, not that you're necessarily following tropes of the time frame that this is set in. And that's why The Final Girls worked out so well with that. With other films, like Happy Death Day is a good example of this. Again, it was this character is stuck in a time loop. They're basically going back in time over and over and over and over and over in the same day, having to relive that, die different ways, try out different pathways to maybe keep them alive a little bit longer. And that works out so well too. So why didn't Totally Killer work for me? And again, I think it's just because I felt that by the time the movie was done, there was more focus on Kernan Shipka's character being back in time and just living in that that time frame than there was with the actual horror element of it. Something about Totally Killer, the environment of it, and I get it's a high school focused film, but something about Totally Killer really reminded me of this year's Lisa Frankenstein, just the aesthetic of it. And the thing is that Lisa Frankenstein is a much more interesting film and doesn't deal with time travel at all. And that's, I guess, another reason why Totally Killer really stands out to me, because I know a lot of people loved it. And I'm not saying it's a bad movie. There's a lot to enjoy about that. But I don't think that I was as interested in the time traveling elements of that as I've been in a number of other films. And so with this new movie Time Cut coming out, what my hope is, especially because of the fact that it is set in the early 2000s, outside of you just giving me a few song cues here and there, hit me like you did with 21 Jump Street, right? To where when they do the flashbacks of Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum's character, we know it's the early 2000s. They give us the music, they give us the style, and then that's it. We're not really focused on that. We know they're in the past. We get the joke in the first 15 seconds, and then we don't have to play that joke ever again. That's kind of what I'm wanting here out of this Time Cut movie as well, because it seems like it's going to be a slasher. If the sister is the initial victim that's getting killed off at the beginning of this story, then that means that if the younger sister is going back in time, there's probably going to be more victims that we're going to learn about there. Now, I hope it's not a Totally Killer situation, because then I don't want to see the same movie. I don't want to see the same movie there. And with Totally Killer, the idea was that there were certain victims that this killer had carried out, and that with Kernan Shipka's character going back in time, she has the ability to stop all these different deaths from occurring in the first place. And we learn about more and more of the people who were killed back in the day. I don't really need that here for this. I'm cool with more people getting killed in that, but we don't need to do the same plot line of, well, all these people died so many years ago. Let's change it up. Let's fuck with the time travel mechanics then, and instead, let's see a story to where she's going back in time to save her sister, but the average story of her going back in time disrupts things, and this killer starts picking out different victims, okay? I don't want any acknowledgement of these other people that were killed before the story before we go back in time. She finds out about other victims, cool with that. But I think I'm good with the idea of us knowing who all these other victims are before the movie actually ends up being released. Just because, again, by doing that, I feel it gives us a chance to really just live in the environment of the early 2000s and focus more on the horror. Honestly, and the way it's really described as is Back to the Future meets Scream, I'm really hoping they nail the Scream aesthetic down. Because the thing is, setting this in the early 2000s, that allows it to be more meta than something like Totally Killer is. Because Totally Killer, unfortunately, has to rely on jokes and humor that are based around, oh, it's a fish out of water. Whereas something here like Time Cut could actually just, again, do a Scream story to where there's a killer going around killing people, and these people are trying to find a way to avoid it. They're trying to find a way to get out of it, trying to stop these murders from happening. Just give a Scream. Just one of the people in that cast is traveling back in time. I'm more curious about a story like that. I don't know if that's what we're going to get, though. Again, we have not seen the trailer yet, so we're still living in a bit of mystery with this one here. I could absolutely be wrong about this here. Of course, I'm just stating my opinion, but it's really hard to ignore the problem of focusing on the aesthetic of the timeline that they're in, or I guess time frame, the year, whatever, the year that they're in, as opposed to the actual horror itself. And that's why so many of these other movies just work out so well. And I get it. A lot of these other ones really aren't focused on going back to some random time frame and then doing a horror movie in that specific time. So I know these are very unique circumstances for sure. We can't just keep getting the same thing. So again, I'm hoping that Time Cut ends up being excellent, that it ends up adding something to time travel horror, because this is a growing genre that we don't have a lot of, so everything is being looked at very, very carefully with that. But I don't know. Again, I know so many of you love Totally Killer, and again, I am not trying to stay and act like I am just completely down on that film, because it is an enjoyable movie. It really, really is an enjoyable movie. It just didn't hit like so many other time travel horror films that I really, really like. So I am curious, folks, because that's all I have for you here tonight. Just want to talk a little bit of my frustrations with time travel movies that are out there. But I am curious, and I want you to tell me in the comment section. Again, chance to win a copy of A is for Alien, Little Golden Book. Again, tell me what your favorite time travel horror movie is. I imagine we're gonna get a lot of the same answers on this one, and that's okay. But I'm just curious. You let me know in the YouTube comment section for a chance to win A is for Alien. And next week on the show, I'll let you know who ends up winning the book and revealing what next month's giveaway is gonna be for the month of September. Trying to cook up something fun for y'all. So that's gonna do it for me tonight. Folks, as always, I very much appreciate you tuning in. Folks, I am always up to constructive criticism as well, too. You know, if there's something you want me to cover, if there's something that you think I could try out doing a little bit differently, I always like getting constructive criticism. Give me some feedback on that, y'all. But let me know in the comments section there, because I'm always striving for ways to improve this. But stay tuned, though, as well, folks, because as we jump into the spooky season, which for me is going to start on September 1st, I'm going to start dropping stuff for y'all to stay up on everything that's hitting streaming that I'm watching throughout the week. So hit that subscribe button and stay tuned. My name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared. Boy here is a big fan of Fangoria. So if you want to check out the world's best horror magazine that's out there, get a chance to get yourself your own subscription, which I just got my first one back in 2022, and I don't regret it for a second. But if you want your own Fangoria subscription, or you like the Fangoria merchandise, then head over to the Fangoria shop and use my link if you want to save yourself some money, folks. That's an easy one to remember. Just go to shop.fangoria.com/AXDEW. Again, that's shop.fangoria.com/AXDEW, or use my specific code AXDEW at checkout. You can save 20% off your entire order, and that implies 2 subscription and one-time orders as well. You don't want to miss out, folks, because with the magnitude of horror movies we've had released in the last few years, and with what we have on the horizon, Fangoria is going to be your #1 source for all that great, juicy, bloody information in the world of horror. So again, head to shop.fangoria.com. Hey there, folks! Thanks for tuning in to T Watch This Scary Movie. I appreciate you checking out another review or movie news, whether we're talking movies, TV shows, books, or games, whatever, it's all scary. Remember, you can check out new episodes every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on the YouTube page for video. That's youtube.com/C/TheraReynolds Scary Movie. Again, youtube.com/c/Darren Reynolds Scary Movie. And you can check out the audio version on all your favorite podcasting platforms. Just search T Watch the Scary Movie or TWASM. Don't forget, my name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared.